Hello and welcome to the Yeerky Boys. May the Candrona shine and strengthen you. My name is Will.
My name is Jonathan.
And we are
the Yeerky Boys.
Yeah, it sounded in sync on my end for once, which means it definitely isn't.
I've been, for at least 5 or 6 episodes, maybe more, it's been in sync, and I've been doing it early purposefully. I come in. I think I figured out the time to come in early on my end to make it sound right enough that when I line them up in post, the episode works. So
yeah,
we've been 90% in sync for a while now, which I didn't think we would ever do. I actually thought it would be a running gag that we never got it right, but I think we actually got into that groove.
That's pretty good. I'm proud of you for that.
Yeah, that's mostly my doing.
Yes, it's entirely your doing. I'm not trying at all.
Yeah. Welcome to today's show. What are we talking about today? I'm so excited to have our listeners join us. It fills my heart with pride.
Yeah, that's same. We're finishing up the Hork-Bajir Chronicles today. As listeners may recall, we still aren't done with this book. We've spent 2 episodes talking about it, and now we've got a third. If you haven't listened to those first 2 episodes, you need to go back and do that, because this is not the one to start on.
No, it is the one to finish on.
Yes, that is true.
And nobody take that a weird way.
I am already.
Now, this book was released in October of 1998.
Oh, is that when it was?
And previously, we discussed, I think, every aspect of the cover, back cover, inside cover. I did actually see one thing on Seropedia that I don't think we touched on yet.
I do have a thing on here that I put in my notes for both books, and both times I forgot it. So I have another thing. It's not about the covers, but it's probably what you're looking at.
Wow, is it the quote?
Oh, no, it's not the quote. What's your quote thing?
Apparently, there's a quote on the paperback version only that says, "They say that terror is in the deep."
Yes, that's true. I thought I said that last time, but I might not have.
We just
fully possible.
Didn't spend 10 minutes on it, so
right.
I didn't. My mind just assumed we didn't touch on it.
Yeah, no. I mean, that is there. So the thing I have been forgetting is the flip book inside. Because we never talk about the flip book. For those who may not have read these as kids, there's always a morph on the cover, right? And so when you flip the pages, you always see the kid morphing like they would on the cover. But in the Chronicles books, they have to do something different, right? And they had like a whole adventure scene in the Andalite Chronicles. In this one, as you flip it, it's like a Yeerk, and it turns into a Ged, which turns into a Hork-Bajir, which turns into an Andalite, which turns into a human. I don't know if that has the same.
I can hear you flipping those pages, baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple issues. I'm not sure that this really fits the book exactly. I mean, I guess this is the order in which they were infesting those species. It says at the beginning here, it gives you little arrows across. It says the Yeerks are coming. Will you be next? Flip the pages and find out.
Okay, now I need to find this. I'm looking at this GIF on Seropedia because as far as I know, this is the first canon depiction of a Ged.
I think that is correct, yes.
And it just looks like a chimp.
Yeah, that's right? About right. Yeah,
which is basically how I've been picturing them. So it's also, I really like when its neck grows out to be a Hork-Bajir.
So one of the problems with this flip book, right, is that it goes across the pages rather than sitting in the corner. So, by the time it's human, you're at the outside, but when it's still a Yeerk, it's like way in the inner corner. And the flip book, I mean, you can't flip you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't flip the pages and
the
see
flip
it.
book. The animation actually moves like from left to right. It doesn't
Yeah.
just stay in the corner like the other books.
Yeah, and because of that, it's very difficult to see the early stages in a physical book because like when you're flipping the corner, it goes really fast, but if you have to flip the entire page to see the inner corner, it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's weird. I want to know how Seropedia captures these flip books. Does somebody scan each page and they make a GIF out of it? It's impressive.
It seems like the best way to do it.
Yeah, I guess. But like they even have the motion across the page in this one. It's very smooth. I like watching it. Do we know what human that is that they turn into at the end?
Nah, I can't tell. It might be me. Maybe I'm next.
I think it is you.
Oh
I think
no.
it's a little 10-year-old you.
Oh no.
Or Marco, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was the thing that I forgot every time. I have a couple more things about the Hork-Bajir Chronicles that I
shit.
wanted to mention from previous times. I don't know if there's any other business to get into before we.
No, I would have just started with the episode, but by all means, waste more time.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just a couple of points I wanted to cycle back to, and I might be diving like way too deep, way too fast into it with this. But so I watched Avatar again this last week. I know I rewatched it before starting this series, but I rewatched it again.
James Cameron's Avatar.
James Cameron's Avatar, yes.
Mhm.
James
Cameron's Avatar.
You're right. James Caravan. One
Mhm.
thing that really like kind of stood out to me, in this book, the Yeerks, they cut down the tribe tree and they turn it into a Yeerk pool. And like you draw the comparison to Sky People blowing up Home Tree.
Of course.
Of course. Like how could you not?
It's impossible not to draw that comparison.
Right. But like I watch Avatar and it's this very like impactful, devastating scene, it's very dramatic, a lot of focus and attention is put onto it. In this book, it's done off screen, like in between chapters. It would be very easy to miss that this was the tribe tree and not just any old Nawin tree. And I am kind of looking back on it like, why is this such a nothing that they tore down the tribe tree? This should be a bigger deal than it is, I feel.
It would be easy to miss that the Hork-Bajir care that much about trees at all.
Yeah, I mean, like,
honest.
they clearly do. But yeah, I do feel like that there are points in here where it's missing some impact.
This is, I think this speaks to maybe some of my larger issues with this book that maybe I won't get into until the end of the episode. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. I have some ideas of where you might be coming from, but I do think that it's not gonna shake because like at the end I'm gonna come back and say like in spite of like I am intellectually aware of the issues with this book, but to me like this is always going to be my favorite. It doesn't even matter. I love this book, and we can talk about those reasons. I think when we
I
get
actually
to the end.
think I am such a skilled debater that I will convince you this book is bad.
I don't think that's possible.
I think I will. By the end of this episode, I will have convinced you this book is bad, and you will say you're right to me.
I don't think that that's true.
I
find it very difficult to imagine that you actually think that this book is bad as opposed to just
it's not
great.
about my opinion. It's about what I'm capable of.
Oh, I don't. I'm pretty stubborn.
Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street? Because I have.
I haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Have you really not seen Wolf of Wall Street?
I actually haven't, no.
Oh my god. Too busy reading Hork-Bajir Chronicles for the 12th time.
I'm a busy guy, what can I say?
Hey, Will, we're going to go see the new Scorsese movie. You want to come with us? Sorry, guys. I've got a night in with Dak Hamid.
Yeah. No time for Scorsese when there's so much Applegate.
but
Yeah.
I'll sell you the pen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever the fuck. That's what I was trying to make a joke
I,
about.
I do know this.
Great.
I've absorbed it through. Yeah. And then there's one other thing, because I'm pretty sure I didn't say this when it happened in the book. And it's something that just needs to be read aloud. And this is the passage where Dak is giving. This is from the first part, and it occurred to me. I'm pretty sure I didn't say it. If I did, then you get to listen to it again. Dak is providing words for the universal translator. He's just rambling for Aldrea, and he says, "Tree, stula tree. The bark below the lowest branch is too old, hard to eat. The bark above the lowest branch, but before the mislit, is good, but harvesting it is bad. This bark helps the stula tree to help grow new stula trees. Only the bark above the mislit may be taken. This is the truth given to us by the Old One."
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was read on air, and if it's read twice, that's okay by me too.
No, it's good. It's good to know about the mislit.
Yeah, can't forget the mislit.
It's good. Everyone thinks it's good.
All right, that takes care of all the business I had here.
All right. Then I think you should catch us up and get going with part 3, the final part, the conclusion.
Yeah, the conclusion. So we ended kind of in the middle of a bit of an action sequence. So I'll just do a very brief, grounder for where we are here. Get you grounded. All right.
Ground me, Daddy.
Yep, the Yeerks. They've begun invading, the Hork-Bajir world. And Dak and Aldrea are attacking their ground-based pool. Esplin is there at the pool. Dak and Aldrea have all the Arn monsters with them, and also a bunch of Hork-Bajir following, being, all do as he does about Dak, and Dak has started fighting, and so the Horks have also started fighting, right? Okay. Okay, everybody grounded?
I'm grounded, baby.
All right.
Just call me a mole.
Good one.
Because I'm in the ground. I'm so ashamed of who I am.
All right. Okay. So, all right. So the chaos is breaking out. They're in a big fight. Aldrea is running through it all toward a parked Andalite fighter that's stationed at the pool, because she wants to call the Andalite homeworld for help. They got to get that message out and get the fleet to come in. She gets into the ship. She is gonna try to make the call when she is attacked by Esplin in his Hork-Bajir body. He beats her up, and he wants to infest her, but first he's gonna blow up all the monsters and stuff with the ship's weapons. And while he's getting ready to do this, Aldrea morphs into a Jubba Jubba. Because she has acquired a Jubba Jubba. She starts morphing the Jubba Jubba. And she strangles Esplin and throws him out of the ship. And then demorphs and, goes back to communication with, the Andalites. She opens the channels. She tells the fleet that the Yeerks are here on the Hork-Bajir world and they need to come. And then she, tells Dak in thought speech to get the Hork-Bajir off the pool, and she blows the shit out of it with the ship's weapons. Boom, boom. And as the Yeerks all run away, Jaggle, you remember Jaggle? He's here. Yeah. And he gives the order to, do as Dak Hemi has done and kill them. So all the Hork-Bajir start, killing the fleeing controllers and, stomping all over all the Yeerks that have flowed out onto the ground. All of them retreat as more fighters show up. The monsters are all dead, but now they have a Hork-Bajir army to fight. Okay, I went over a lot.
It's not that much.
Okay. Okay, good. We'll get there quickly.
Visser 3, this is a trap, right? He knows she's gonna come, right? It's not just a coincidence. Did they ever make that explicit, or am I drawing
What do
conclusions?
you mean he knows that she's gonna come?
I like he's waiting for her in the ship.
Yeah, they don't
Am I
make that
wrong?
explicit, but I would agree with you that when he's like he doesn't know that they're gonna get attacked, but as soon as he sees her attacking, he's like, I know where she's headed. She's headed to the ship.
Yeah, well, just because I feel like she makes a big deal out of how easy it is to get in there. Like nobody's
Mm-hmm.
guarding it or anything. It seems like suspicious to me.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I had read it less as a trap and more as just like opportunistic. Like the Yeerks were just fully unprepared, so she had an easy time getting
Mm.
there. Except Esplin knew she was like he just ran in there to cut her off. But I mean, maybe
Yeah,
there was some element of a trap to it. Yeah.
trap maybe is too strong a word, but it's certainly like Esplin figured out what she was going for.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That
And
might
maybe the
even be
other Yeerks are
explicit.
just too stupid. Like they're like, I don't know, why would she want to go in there? We're just little baby Yeerks.
Yeah, they do make a point last time of saying that like they had had such an easy time that they just weren't expecting any resistance. They should have had mounted cannons here, which would have stopped this, but they didn't bother. The guy who is in charge gets like tortured to death for incompetence. Like they're just totally taken by surprise.
Yeah. And it is worth pointing out, I think, that at this point he still has no knowledge of morphing. He just
Yes.
wants an Andalite because they're so smart and capable,
Yes.
and he
And
loves them.
he loves them a lot.
Yeah, he's not just in it for the morphing. He loves them. He loves everything about them.
hmm Yeah,
Yeah,
that's our Esplin. um,
that's our Esplin.
yeah. Now she morphs to Jubba Jubba here.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
kind of a twist, right? We didn't know she had a Jubba Jubba.
yeah, we didn't. And I was thinking when I ended the episode last time, I was thinking about saying Aldrea morphs to Jubba Jubba, because because that would fit. But I kind of didn't want to spoil that for you. I wanted that to
Yeah,
be exciting.
I kind of wish you had said it, but I think you made the right call.
Yeah, it's so hard to know in advance, right?
It does, like, at first I just thought she was dying and just her brain was like, the last thing I want to think about before I die is my sweet Jubba Jubba.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, I get it. I can relate.
right.
That's when I go on my deathbed, I'm going to be picturing the Jubba Jubba as well.
Yeah, a bit of projection on your part.
Praying that I'm reborn as the Jubba Jubba
hmm
far away on Hork-Bajir
Yeah,
homeworld.
good old Hork-Bajir.
Because the Hork-Bajir also don't name their own planet. The Andalites are in charge of that.
Yeah, I mean, you would there should be some, like it would make sense that they don't have a name for like a planet exactly because they don't know, but they should have, they've got Father Deep and Mother Sky. Like what's the area where the trees all are, right? They should
Baby
have a name for
surface.
that. Yeah, baby surface. That's the name of it's like how we call our planet Earth. They call it baby
Right.
surface.
Well, the stuff on the ground is earth too, and you
Yeah.
move it sometimes with earth movers.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
I
they could have
wonder
hork
if
movers.
Axe ever thinks that maybe Earth movers are like some kind of super tech because that move the whole planet around because he's too
Damn.
advanced.
Yeah, it probably would.
Yeah, but as you said, Esplin has not heard of morphing tech. They don't go into as much detail in this book about how horrific morphing looks, but like, can you imagine if you just had no idea that this was a thing, and then you look over and you see this thing half morph, not even fully Jubba, just like halfway between a Jubba Jubba and an Andalite.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. Visitor 3 takes it in stride, all things considered.
Yeah, he handles it. Oh, new Andalite tech. I guess they can do this too.
Yeah, it's pretty good to have that element of surprise. The only time in the series you ever do.
Yeah, yeah. And we also find out that Aldrea has practiced the Jubba Jubba before this fight, which makes her more competent than any of the Animorphs have like ever been.
That's for sure. I do assume that because she's an Andalite, she's better at morphing, and I guess they also said females are better at morphing, so they don't. Maybe that's why. I mean, also it's probably just not to waste time, but
Mhm.
there's not as much description of the process of morphing because, like, for her, it's just kind of, I'm morphing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not clear to me that Andalites would be better at morphing in general. And I mean, even it
Yeah.
like has Aldrea ever morphed anything? Like, I guess what did she morph, a Jabala or something? I think she did, right? And
What's a Jabala?
on Andalite world or something.
Oh, maybe I don't remember.
It's like some small random shitty thing. But like as far as I know, she's morphed a Chadu and a Jubba Jubba and whatever random thing she practiced on back on Andalite World, which wasn't a Kaffet bird because she had to get something new to fly around here. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like I don't know that she actually has a lot of experience.
Yeah, I guess not. She's a natural. She's a gifted talent.
Must be.
Yeah, why not?
It's the only explanation.
And then a bunch of
yeah.
Horks kill each other.
A bunch of Horks kill each other, yeah. This is, as far as Dak is aware, the first battle the Hork-Bajir people have ever fought amongst themselves.
It's very sad. It's kind of like a civil war, except it's not.
Yes.
I did want to say Hork shall never kill Hork.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I also wanted to say, it's sad, like I said, because they're all brothers and sisters of Mother Sky. But if you think about it, that's the same thing in our wars as well.
That's true. That's very profound.
Yeah, it's like the ones that are controlled by Yeerks are just Hork-Bajir, but like again, in real life, we're all just humans.
Right.
So it's equally as, it made me think about how sad war is.
I do think that this book touches pretty heavily on that theme. Yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
I honestly can't tell to what extent you are trying to be like ironically oversimplifying it, and to what extent you're being serious.
I don't know. I've never been ironic a day in my life. I mean everything I say.
Okay. Good. Well, that explains that to me.
And Jaggle is a fucking beast.
Yeah, Jaggle is a fucking beast. I mean, I do think that it's it's a good detail for the whole like loss of innocence theme to have Jaggle be the one who gives the orders to go out, and like it's not Dak very quickly. It's just like, nope, you made the decision to do it, but now this is how it is, and Jaggle's out there, and especially for a guy like me who loves Jaggle, right? Big Jaggle fanboy over here.
Yeah, we call you the Jaggle off.
Right.
It is sad. Yeah. Gentle, fearful Jaggle, he calls him.
Mm-hmm.
He had learned a great deal in 20 minutes of combat.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't so gentle after all underneath all that. Maybe there's every 50 years of civil war or whatever that is kicking in here.
I mean, once you figure out, the things on my arms, if I point them into a thing, they get hurt. It's like, it's not that big of a leap.
Yeah.
It's like, if you've been walking around your whole life just carrying sharp knives and someone's like, you ever try sticking someone with those? You figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, no. And Jaggle is a beast in this book. He's great in this section of this book in particular.
Yeah, Jaggle has quite an arc.
He certainly does. And we get some Dak, like whatever, pontificating on the nature of war. As you said, he has a good bit where he says, Hork-Bajir, who had never known the word obedience, now obeyed me. Because I was the seer? Because I was wiser than they? No. Because I had destroyed their past, and now they had no choice but to follow me into a future they could not imagine. The monsters in our valley were destroyed that day, but that was all right, because we didn't need monsters anymore. We had become them.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good line.
It's a pretty good line. This book is filled with good lines.
Yeah, what do you think about this? replace the D with a J and add an E. Jake.
Interesting.
Both struggling leaders.
Right.
So there's a parallel there.
Yeah, I would say maybe Jake's last name is Hami, but we actually are going to, at the very end of the series, we're going to find out Jake's last name.
Do we find out all their last names?
No.
That sucks.
I know it does suck, doesn't it?
That should just be the very end, by the way.
Right. Now I can tell you.
Oh, well. We'll deal with that when it happens. Yeah, Dak has gone through quite a journey since the start of this book.
Mm-hmm.
I also like in his descriptions of war, he says, "My people set about stomping and cutting up the Yeerks who lay on the ground. It was like some nightmare dance. And need I remind you, and I need, that he used the term sky dance earlier in the book. I wonder if there's some dancing culture in Hork-Bajirs that I missed or that they maybe they haven't delved into, but it feels like he knows about dance."
Yeah, I feel like you must be right. There must be a big dance culture with the Hork-Bajir.
Makes sense. That seems like that's like a tribal thing.
Yeah.
They have like music with the vines. They must. What was I racist? Was it racist? I'm sorry.
No, I do agree. I do agree. I think that I'm on the same page as you.
All right. Now you're racist too, buddy.
Yeah. Artistic expression through movement. Yeah, no, I like the idea of Hork-Bajir dances. I wish that there was more Hork-Bajir
orcs.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't get a ton of just Hork-Bajir home life and culture. We get a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing you and I could always do with more of that.
Right. Yeah, we get enough that I love them now, but not as much as I need.
I think we alluded to it last book, but we didn't really talk about it once it came up, which when she sees their classrooms, so to speak.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
They have, I don't remember, doesn't she say what they're actually being taught, or they're just being told stories or something?
Yeah, I think she said they were being told stories. And so like it feels to me the implication is like the way that, for those who may have forgotten, the framing device for this is that Jerahami is telling a story, right? And so, like, presumably this is, like, how Hork-Bajir pass on knowledge and teach, right? Is that they tell stories like this in the manner that Jerahami is, I would think. And so I'm imagining, they're doing this whole, like, weird, rocking back and forth meditative thing on these platforms in front of these kids. And somehow they're learning the way that you would learn from a book like this, I guess.
Maybe bark gets you high. Maybe these Horks are just blazed 24/7.
That could be.
Like they stop eating bark and they're actually really smart. They're just too high.
Maybe yellow bark is like the equivalent of like decaf coffee or something. They feel sick because they're coming down now.
Don't eat that yellow bark, man. Yeah. That's the nicotine patch of trees. I like this theory. I'm running with this.
Yeah,
this is right.
Isn't that like a thing with koalas where like eucalyptus gets them high, but it's all they eat or something?
I only know that they have chlamydia. That's all I know.
Yeah, I know they smell really bad and they're mean.
And they're
too.
mean, yeah. That doesn't
Well,
make
like
me want to
me.
hug them any less. Yeah.
On all counts.
Well, I don't want to hug you though. Let's be clear.
All right. So we haven't talked yet about the conversation with this Andalite.
Which one is that?
Where she calls to the Andalite fleet and talks to them.
Oh yeah. And she's like, Prince Zero is dead, and they're like, fucking who?
Yeah, no, it is pretty good. She's like, help, priority 1 message, and the guy comes, and he says, the announcement of Prince Zero's death is hardly a priority 1 message.
So, such a dick.
Such a fucking asshole.
I guess he doesn't know it's his daughter, but I
You
don't
know,
know.
I don't. I'm not sure that he doesn't.
Yeah, she might have like a frequency or a call sign or something that she used. I don't know.
Yeah, or I mean, like, if he's even familiar with the area, he could just be like, "Oh, it's some young girl calling from the Hork-Bajir planet." There's only one. That's only one person that could be.
Yeah, did they? Are they the only family? Is like 4 Andalites. They didn't have any support.
Nope, they were just an outpost here. I mean, it was literally supposed to be nothing.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about, and I don't think I brought it up before, is that I do feel like this is like the Andalites made like a critical mistake here, where like I think they were thinking like, well, the Yeerks aren't going to be interested in some backwoods primitive planet, right? Because what they need is tech. They need spaceships and guns to fight us, right? So they're going to be going after some high-tech race so they can get like, blasters and Z space engines and whatever. And like they completely neglected the fact that what the Yeerks actually just need is manpower. They just need bodies, right? And so like if you any planet is fine so long as they have like strong, fit bodies that can work and do labor. And I don't know if I can tie that directly into like the theming of this book around the respect that is granted to like progress and intelligence and whether that is warranted. But I think that's sort of adjacent to that theme.
You mean because right, because they want, well, how?
Well, just in the
Explain
sense
yourself.
that like that Andalites, if they had gone after the Yeerks earlier, if they had respected the fact that this might be a serious target, the Yeerk Empire never would have gotten off the ground, and the only reason that it did is because the Andalites were it's like the Andalites didn't take any race that couldn't like operate on their level technologically seriously.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm
Okay.
explaining it well, but
No, that makes sense. Because I was like, from the Yeerk's perspective, it's almost the opposite. Where, like, well, it's like you said. I think it's basically aligning with what you're saying. Is that they don't care about the knowledge. Well, Visser 3 does. Esplin does.
Mhm.
I think he's maybe the only one who sees how important that is.
Mhm.
So he's kind of, that's why he likes the Andalites so much. He wants to be an Andalite. He likes that they're space cops. He wants to be one too.
Mhm.
That's what he wants.
Mhm.
And everyone else is just like, yeah. We need to be in things so we can smell.
Yeah.
We haven't-
Or even just like it doesn't matter if if we steal one ship with the best guns ever, that's nowhere near as good as having 100,000 able-bodied workers all mining day and night in order to build a fleet of ships that maybe don't have the best shit, but like we got a fleet, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like an oversight. Very clearly, this whole thing is an oversight, right? Because like the whole point is that like they sent Zero out here because like it was a nothing assignment, right? It was just whatever. Who gives a shit? Just put him on this outpost nobody cares about. It won't be important. And clearly, it was extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah. They did not see this one coming.
Yeah, they messed up.
You fucked up, Andalites. I almost said
Mhm.
Yeerks.
Yeah.
Because honestly, sometimes I can't even tell the difference.
Whoa. Both sides are the same, really.
There's good people on both sides.
That's true. I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, you have Alaran,
Right.
and then you have Aftran.
I was thinking Alaran and Esplin. And then you put them together, you're this guy.
Oh yeah, that's like a superpower.
Yeah. We see a little bit. We'll see more of it later, but we start seeing hints of like the sexism. I mean, we've seen some before, but like the sexism in Andalite society. Like we see Aldrea being like, "Oh shit, I gotta like do my best here because they're not gonna take me seriously because not only am I young, but also I'm a woman."
She should have stayed as the Jubba Jubba to call.
That's true.
Like, I am the advanced Jubba Jubba. You must send help.
The mighty Jubba Jubba race is under attack.
They'd be like, wait, you're male, right? Yes, I am a male Jubba Jubba.
We just talk in a more feminine tone.
It's me, the male Jubba Jubba. Come on down. In this book, do Esplin and Alaran interact at all? I don't think they do.
No, not in this book.
Little did they know. It's like
little-
two ships in the night.
That's right. An invisible string tying them together,
Wow.
one might
Ooh.
say.
Now I'm thinking up even more fan fiction right now.
Yeah. Gray was the color of the sludge where I used to swim in the Yeerk pool. I don't know.
That's fucking good. That's fucking good.
Something.
I can't believe how much time we have spent on this first scene.
I know. We're really bad.
Yes, it's mostly you, but I do encourage it. So
I think we honestly bring out the worst in each other.
I did not I did not write that much. I was like, I don't know, but
See, it's funny.
Yeah.
I actually did write quite a bit here, although my notes kind of peter out toward the end. So hopefully this is okay. I think we're on pace to do fine. So things are gonna.
yeah, the notes are rarely an indicator.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I think I said it in the first episode of this book that sometimes it's like I'll just highlight something in my book and I'm like, I can't write a note for everything. I'm going to read that passage and I'm going to talk about it then. But anyway.
Yeah. No. So for those of you who were thinking, oh no, they might not have enough to talk about. I might only get a 1 hour podcast. That's not.
Don't worry, you will get your allotted 6+ hours of Hork-Bajir talk all together.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was worried. All right. Have we finished?
Yes, please go on.
All right. 7 months pass.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Before this podcast continues.
The no Andalites have shown up yet. They expected them to maybe be here in about 2 months, but 7 months past, no Andalites still. The Hork-Bajir have resorted to like guerrilla tactics, with Dak and Aldrea leading their group, the Hork-Bajir army. They list out what they did. There's like a little bullet point of what they do. It's like they strike with the element of surprise, they withdraw before counterattack, and they use the population for support, regardless of reprisals. They capture weapons. They're all trained up. They're hardcore now. They kind of force the Arn to hide them. But they're still losing due to just like the sheer numbers of the Yeerks. Like they're getting killed and the Yeerks are getting stronger. We also get a little bit of an update on the Arn when they bring a wounded Hork-Bajir to them, and they're like, Arn, you have to heal this Hork-Bajir, and the Arn refuse, and the Hork-Bajir dies. But we find out in this scene that the Arn have altered themselves so that the Yeerks can't infest them without killing them, and Dak calls them stupid, which they are. This is a pretty short part, but I do have some things to say before we move on to the big deal, which is coming up here. So.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I will just say on a broad level,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. I like that 7 months have passed.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty rare for an Animorphs any
Yeah.
book for more than like 2 days to go by.
Mm.
And it does add some weight to this. It feels like this whole period you could make a Clone Wars, or you could make an Andor. Like, this is just there's a whole show, a whole series in this 7 months.
Yeah.
That would be probably fascinating.
Yeah, and this is like this bit here is kind of like it's almost like a transitional chapter, but in many ways this is kind of what the book is about, right? And like in my heart, this is what the book is about, is this section here. Like, it's all centered around this, and there's very little content about this part, but like it all, I don't know, like if I were remembering what it felt like to read this book as a child, it's like, yeah, it's the guerrilla Hork-Bajir who go out and you know what I mean?
Yeah, your imagination is doing some of the heavy lifting there.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I think that is one of the strengths of this book, and you might say that I'm about to describe a weakness, but that it builds enough of a world that it makes like it encourages you to fill in all the holes.
yeah, I think it's a strength and a weakness,
Hmm.
kind of. I mean, I like world building.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say this specifically is a weakness, like this, like the fact that
Yeah,
they don't cover those 7 months or something.
yeah.
I
No,
don't.
that I don't. That's not quite what I meant. Yeah. But yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're mostly on the same page. Um, I mean, I have some like technical questions, but maybe you have more interesting, not
Uh,
nitpicky bullshit.
I mean a lot. There's some technical stuff that I have in here too that I want to get to, but like I do just want to say like while we're on the subject of the Hork-Bajir guerrilla fighters, I do think that this book instilled an idea in me as a child, which persists that terrorism is legitimate political action.
Well, it's Star Wars, right? It's
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it is Star Wars and it's also just Animorphs in general. But like
yeah,
something about the way it's portrayed in this book is a lot more like gritty and violent for
yeah,
like in a way like in Star Wars they are the rebels, they are the terror, but like the way it's portrayed it's very much like yeah, like the Rebel Alliance, they're like the cool fleet or whatever, whereas in this book it's a lot more like it's a bunch of grungy dudes hiding out in caves who just like show up to blow something up and then run away before anyone can shoot back at them because they can't win that way. In a way that doesn't quite jive with how it's presented in Star Wars.
yeah. Well, it's hard for me to read the phrase guerrilla warfare and not just immediately
Hmm.
think of Vietnam. That's like my.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the like in school and history books. That's I feel like where I learned that term
Hmm.
maybe. And then of course my immediate second thought, or perhaps at the exact same time layered on top of it, is thinking about the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. I'm just two equivalent things.
Right. No, I mean, like, listen. As much as this book gets into some pretty serious political concepts, and as much as this book is like kind of foundational to my politics, I'm also, we spend most of the time talking about it, being like, remember Star Wars? Remember Avatar? Remember the Dark Tower? Remember the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are there any others? I think we got all the references
I'm
we
pretty
made.
sure we made more than that. The Matrix.
Oh yeah, The Matrix. Okay, I think that covers it because we already touched on Taylor Swift. So
Right. Yeah, I actually have another Taylor Swift thing coming up.
I'm excited for that. Oh, I do too. I
Oh,
wonder if we have
good.
the same one.
Maybe. Well,
Oh.
we're pretty in sync.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about Taylor Swift. Because that's a
Hey,
band.
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know where we're at, but yeah, it's all that stuff is good, and I do. You're right that it feels grittier, mostly because this book kind of is a tragedy because we know
Yeah.
it doesn't end well.
Yeah, like going in it's gonna be bad.
If you've read Andalite Chronicles,
Yeah.
you're like because Andalite Chronicles kind of is a direct. They tell you what happens in this book.
Yeah. I mean, even if you haven't read it though, if you've read any Animorphs, you know the Hork-Bajir are entirely enslaved. So
That's
you like
true.
even if you don't know quite what's gonna happen, like they tell you, it's clearly. And again, this is a difference from how it's often presented, where there's this sort of like even in regular Animorphs, you don't go into it thinking like, oh, they're probably gonna lose this, right? Like I don't know what you think the ending of this series is, but I have a feeling you don't think that it's gonna end with all of humanity being dead or enslaved.
Yeah, right.
No
Probably
spoilers,
not.
but like it's just not. It's not. Whereas with this book, you the whole time you know that's how it ends.
Yeah, yeah. And although I don't know that I don't know if it was until this part that I fully internalized that of
Mhm.
realizing like, oh right, of course. It's kind of like Rogue One.
Right.
And I think that's ballsy. I think it's always ballsy to write a story with where it's not only is it not a happy ending, but the whole time it's not going to be a happy ending.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's talk about Zero Space.
Yeah, let's do it.
Has this been? I feel like maybe this was brought up once before, but Zero Space shifts.
Yeah, Zero Space shifts. I feel like you're right. It's been brought up, like at one point, maybe in the Andalite Chronicles. Maybe when Elfangor was drifting around Z Space trying to figure out what to do. I don't know. Or maybe it was some other time.
The decision.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, you find out Zero Space shifts, which means it's basically Z Space is not as convenient as just light speed or hyperspeed, where you can just always warp to wherever you want. It's like Z Space is like the airport. It's like, there's no planes leaving today. You can't take a direct flight there until next September. It's like, I don't know. It's strange. It was confusing to me until like the next section, in which I realized, oh, well, it's basically a plot convenience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it feels to me more akin to, here, I'm going to drop another one, more like the infinite improbability drive from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh,
where it's like, look, it takes time to get where you're going, but not because of any kind of meaningful concept of distance. There's some kind of weird underlying construct that causes it to take time, but it doesn't make sense, and it's not well explored. In fact, it's so badly explored that the infinite improbability drive is better explored, like from a theoretical standpoint, I think, than Z Space is.
Well, to bring it back to another one of the books I've read.
Yes.
I always think of A Wrinkle in Time, which I'm sure we brought up when we first discussed Z Space. We must have.
We must have, yeah.
Because it's that napkin folding thing, and it's like...
Well, I think it's... Yeah, no, we might have gone over this already, but I think Z-Space is, like, fundamental. It's more like... It's less like folding the napkin, which would be like tunneling through a wormhole or fifth dimension, and more like crumpling the napkin up into a tiny ball, and then uncrumpling it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, the napkin just, like, moves around sometimes or something, but...
Yeah.
Hopefully
Maybe
this
it
is not
depends on
annoying.
the crumples.
Like how I love that show.
How does it crumple? That's, I don't know.
I don't know if people listening to this are like are mad because we're not explaining the napkin thing, but I feel like I don't know. It just seems like we've already done it, and it'll be more annoying if we do it again.
Yeah.
And hopefully
if you don't know
context,
what the
please.
napkin from The Wrinkle of Time is, that's on you.
It's on you. Anyway, so that's Z Space. I don't know. There's also some like Yeerk things here. We find out they invented the Dracon beam at this time.
Yes.
By modifying a shredder. So, like, once again, hooray. We find out where the thing came from.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they call it? What's Dracon? Why did they call it that? I'm not sure. Is that a thing? They just thought it sounded cool? I don't know.
It's just a new name. It's just a new
I get shredder. Shreds things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting because I have mixed feelings on that, because I actually do appreciate seeing the birth of these things. I think it's an interesting like thing with the timeline where you see like they're using stolen Andalite tech, but once they get an established ground base, like their first established ground base, they can start actually innovating and making their own tech and their own designs. I think that's a cool detail. I'm less... Okay, and I remember actually kind of having a problem with this even as a 9-year-old, which is pretty bad, because as a 9-year-old, you just accept everything. With the parts where they go like, oh, we've started calling them bug fighters. We call them the blade ship or whatever. And it's like, I didn't need to know where the name bug fighter came from. You could just say they made these new fighters. Oh, bug fighter incoming.
This is... I mean, if this comes up in the next section.
Yeah, this is more of a next section thing, but
I mean, we could just talk about it now since you brought it up.
I'm trying not to spoil the next bit, but I feel like it's reasonable to talk about here.
Well, now we have to.
Yeah,
it's fine, and unless now you know what, let's not talk about it yet.
Okay.
But yeah, we will. I agree with you. We'll get to that. I think in the case of the Dracon beam, it's not like so egregious. It's like, oh, it makes sense. that they would be modifying this stuff right
Yeah,
now.
and I think it works better. Like I can like I think that argument it's a little bit more of a thing with like, oh well, the dome ship is also brand new, and it's like, why did the dome ship have to be brand new? Like what was
Right.
like there's something you could read a really interesting narrative about like the escalation of force for the Andalites into it, but it's not written into it, so it feels a little bit thrown in. Whereas this year does feel like it's like this is part of the story of the birth of the Yeerk Empire. Is like they didn't always have bug fighters. Why would they always have had bug fighters? Like at some point they had to establish themselves, and that to me is interesting. Um,
Yeah, it's their little their little tech tree growing.
yeah, I didn't need the scene where the guy is all like no last name, but he's on his own, solo.
Right.
That part I don't need.
To be fair, most normal people who read this book, that they just were like, "Oh, the Dracon beam," and they never thought about it again.
Yeah,
it's only our because we're to have to discuss it that it really stands out. All these things.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not like it's a
absolutely.
big part of the book.
Yeah.
What I didn't fully understand is the Yeerks are out building all this advanced shit.
Mhm.
I guess is that all from the what are they called, the Skritna, or because the Hork-Bajir don't know how to build shit, so like
Mhm.
the Yeerks are just have to learn how to build things right now by
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, no, they have access to the Andalite databases on the Andalite ships. They have access to the Skritna and the Angachik and what was there? Were there some Hodgebrons in there? So they have access to some of these things, and they have access. Like they can look at what's in the computer systems. They can also look at the ships that they already have and attempt to copy this in some way. So like I think there's some I would love to see some like super dry obnoxious Asimov type write some boring short story about the Yeerk technician who figured out how to imitate a ship design by like, oh, it turns out I learned chemistry on here, so I developed a machine that could like read the thing and figure out the right alloys and what we need to mine and how. I would love to read like a 10-page story about that.
Well, clearly the Yeerks are geniuses because if you gave me all this information, I couldn't build shit. Like
well, I
I
mean,
don't.
Visser 3 couldn't do it. Like he specifically said, listen, there's some scientists out there.
Or this is like a function of them being in a brain. Like if the Skritna can build a ship, then they get that instinct. They kind of can fast track knowing how to build it. Maybe.
Yeah, except I don't know that they have any Skritna infested. I feel
they definitely mentioned Skritna in this book.
They do, and they have their ships, but I don't think they ever mentioned infesting them. And I still feel like somewhere or other, like we discovered there's a problem with infesting them. And I've been looking out for it because I was under the impression that Yeerks can't infest Skritna because sometimes they just go into a cocoon randomly and they can't be predicted, and then the Yeerk will die or something.
I think maybe they mentioned that. It's maybe.
Yeah, but that might just be a total fan bullshit thing I made up, unless you remember it from a specific point.
I don't know.
But I know they couldn't infest the Hodgebrons, and there were only a couple Angachiks who were minstrels anyway. Like, I don't know that they have that many brains.
I don't remember what the fuck a Hodgebron is. What's that?
I think all we know about them is that their ships were fast but lightly armed, and they have distributed nervous systems, so the Yeerks can't infest them. I think that's all we know.
All right. Here's the sentence I liked. We trained a hard core of Hork-Bajir.
Mm-hmm.
We called it the Hork-Bajir Army. No kidding.
Yeah,
who came up with that title?
You could have just been like, we trained a hardcore army of Hork-Bajir and then just started calling it the Hork-Bajir Army in the book. That's another possibility for how to write.
Yeah. And yes, and then meanwhile the Arn are out here just uploading new patch notes to their bodies.
Yeah. God, the Arn suck so much. They're so
funny.
Bad.
They're like, we don't care if the Yeerks try to get us, they'll just die. And I mean, sorry, spoiler alert, but we find out later they just enslave them.
Yeah, the Yeerks just turn them into actual real slaves and put them in the
It's
mines.
like they can still do that, right? Like there are races with slaves that don't infest their brains.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Arn are just not. They just do not want to be involved. They don't want to make a better world. They don't want to improve anything. They suck. They're so bad.
Yeah. They're not good. Also, we find out that Delph and Jaggle are a couple now.
Yes, Delph and Jaggle.
So that's pretty exciting.
And Jaggle is a great Yeerk killer, we find out as well. He's really good. He's a badass.
Yes. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I love Delph Hajul is her full name.
Yeah, that's what she's into. She's impressed by his show of physical prowess.
Yeah. I love Jaggle and Delph.
And we also... Yes.
I'm going to write some Jaggle and Delph fan fiction.
Of course you are. And we also learn another piece of Hork-Bajir culture, which is that they do bury their dead specifically at the roots of a tree.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Does make sense.
They are certainly tree focused.
Yeah. Listen, all I'm saying is that Jaggle is clearly Dak's right-hand man, You need a job done, you give it to Jaggle. That's what I'm saying.
Obviously, he's the wand to his Terry.
Right.
The Terry to his wand.
The Terry to his wand.
Did you like when they say, when Mother Sky was weeping, sending down tears to soothe the Father Deep's anger?
It was raining.
It was raining. Yeah, it was raining. That is the next line.
Yeah. I did like that.
That reminded me of a little, when people say the devil's beaten his wife.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when people say that.
Yeah, people are always saying the devil's beaten his wife. Yeah.
It's when you come from a region that just has one weird phrase and everybody won't let it go. I have a couple of those.
That quiz online where it's like, we're going to guess where you're from by how you say things. Oh, do you call it water or wooder? And there's always one question. It's like, what do you call it when it's raining? And that's the one. Yeah. The devil's beating his wife is like, oh, you're from like this county in Iowa. There's like one.
I think it's like Mississippi.
Yeah, that sounds more right. It's some fucking just like 10 people that are like,
yeah.
How'd they get on this quiz? This is not something anyone else has ever said.
Yeah.
Devil's beating his wife. Who the fuck came up with that? All right.
You're right. You're 100% right. This part also made me look up what bauxite is, because I didn't actually know.
Oh, and yeah, I have that for the next part. Oh, they mention it twice.
They mention it twice. This is when I looked it up. It's it's the primary source. Oh yeah.
Oh, go on. No, I was going to name them all, but I'm not gonna. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it's the primary source of aluminum and gallium, and also potentially a vanadium source. And
that's cool.
Gallium is useful in circuits, by the way, so that's why the Yeerks are mining it. In addition to the aluminum for alloys.
Kind of disappointing that we don't get any weird alien alloys. It's all just the shit we got on Earth.
Yeah, no, this would have been a good moment to throw in some other random. Where it's like that. There's a name for that specific rule of threes, where you name two normal things and then one alien thing.
Yeah, I don't know what the name of that is, but it's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
As I think you know. Yeah, that was my I don't know. But the great leaders of history, Plato, Abraham Lincoln, Globlore of Pling Plong 7.
Right. Yeah.
They do that on original Star Trek all the time.
Yeah, it's a very good thing.
I think they should have had some unobtainium up in here.
Yeah, they should.
But they didn't. And we're all worse off for it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem was that the Andalite scanners would have picked it up, and then they would have been like, well, we got it, this isn't a place for Prince Zero, right? We got to go mine that unobtainium.
Do you understand? If you weren't here, if this were just me, the scenes we've talked about so far, I would have had about 4 minutes of material on. I don't understand how it has gone this far.
This is why we need two of us for the podcast. Either one of us would have made a tenth of the content.
We gotta keep moving.
Okay. All right. Okay. So one night, a Hork-Bajir named Had Kalpak notices that Mother Sky's flowers are strange tonight. It's a space battle, and the Andalites have arrived. Whee, yay, they're here. They're here. And they land, and who should come out to greet them? Sophor. You remember Sophor?
I don't.
Old Hoofentail?
Oh, he's Elfangor's prince?
Yeah, he's gonna. Well, his like trainer.
Right.
Guy.
Oh, just his trainer, not his. He's not actually in the army. He's the trainer, or
Well, I mean, he's like the old grizzled guy who teaches tailblade fighting. You know, that character archetype. Like he's young now. He's a warrior here.
I see. Yeah, I did not remember that was the same character.
Yeah, I honestly didn't really remember that either. But I was like, I know Sophor when I read it here. Anyway, he's gonna take Aldrea to go see the prince. He's being kind of a dick about it. And Dak steps in and he's like, no, like, fuck you. We waited 7 months for you. You know, your prince can come down here and talk to me. So Alaran, who is now War Prince Alaran, he lands in his flagship, the Jahar. Remember the Jahar?
Oh, now that I remember.
Yeah. And,
Jahar!
That's our soundbite that we need. He lands, he comes up, he assumes they've been hiding out, he assumes Dak is some nobody, he's also being a dick about it. Dak briefs him on the situation and what's been going on, and all the Andalites are like, oh, holy shit. So, because although Dak has a bunch of really good info on like what the Yeerks are doing, it's also very clear that the Andalites have underestimated the Yeerk forces here, because the fleet had conflicting intelligence that the main Yeerk fleet was somewhere else, and they figured that Aldrea was just some like dumb, whiny baby bitch, and she was complaining about nothing, so they only sent a small task force, and it turns out that even though the Andalites have arrived, they are vastly outmatched and outnumbered, and the main fleet is a year away, so they're going to have to survive another year.
Outgunned. Outmanned. Outnumbered, outplanned. From Hamilton.
Okay. I find Hamilton to be kind of problematic, but, you know.
Because you hate when people of color are given prominent roles in Broadway shows?
Sure. I feel like I saw a discourse about it, so I figured I'd say that and let the listeners fill in the blank as to what I meant.
Okay, well, I gave them one option.
No fucking idea.
Please, let's not. We can't get on that tangent.
No, we really cannot. Yeah.
Yes.
No, what are you saying? You're saying something interesting.
At this point, we have really fully established that 90% of Andalites are just huge assholes. Like every time we meet one, they're just a dick.
Yeah. It's interesting because and this is going to remain true throughout the series. Still, pretty much every Andalite we've ever met is a soldier. Aldrea is not, and she's still a dick, but it's not clear to me that Ciro or her mother were that bad. Like, I feel like they were still probably kind of arrogant and kind of like, oh, you know, they're a lesser species, but, like, they were nice about it at least. That doesn't necessarily make them better, but it makes them, you know, at least not more a complete ass.
Yeah. I mean, humans are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
This is also the part where we've really fully established exactly how dire this scenario is.
Yes. We establish here that Dak has taken 70% casualties. Of the 812 total Hork-Bajir who have ever been in their army, only 42 are still alive at this point.
Good God. I mean, that is fucked up. And then they also say that there are 40,000 controllers.
40,000 Hork-Bajir controllers, and less than 1,000 Andalites have shown up.
And that I think I gasped when I read
Yeah.
that. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
This feels very Battlestar Galactica a little too. The dwindling population and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the Andalite, because the Andalite troops who are here seem like totally blown away by these. No, and I don't think it's just the direness of the Hork-Bajir. I have a suspicion that Andalites just don't take casualties on this level, right? That it's for Andalites, most of the wars they've been in and they've seen up until this particular one have been more akin to like our operations in Iraq, where like we'll just go in and blow up opposing forces by the hundreds and then be like, a dozen guys died this year. It's a tragedy, and the idea that like most of them are dead, they're completely wiped out, is just like mind blowing to them, and they're like, oh, maybe we're not quite prepared to have stepped into this situation.
Yeah, I get the sense too that most of their combat is ship combat.
Yeah, I think that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not quite as prepared for an on the ground fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're just fucked. Everyone's all around fucked.
Yeah. And this scene is a pretty good kick in the teeth to any like little kid reading this, like me. Because like, I mean, like first of all, when you're reading the Animorphs, right? The hope in the books, they've reiterated it a couple of times at this point. The hope isn't that they are somehow the six of them going to beat the entire Yeerk invading force, right? It's that they're going to hold off the invasion long enough for the Andalite fleet to show up. And so it's like, okay, so now we've got this other book where they're trying to hold off long enough for the Andalite fleet to show up, and here they are, this is what fucking happens. I hope you're happy, kids. I hope, this is your hope. This is your knight in shining armor, right? Go fuck yourself.
Maybe that's why they explained Z-space shifting before, is to explain why the Andalites can't come so fast.
Yeah.
I honestly had kind of forgotten that was the plan in Animorphs. They don't bring that up that much of like,
No.
oh, it's now 7 months until they're supposed to arrive.
Yeah, because they have
really
no idea.
up.
They don't have like a timeline like Aldrea does.
I thought that early on, Axe says like 1 or 2 years. He says one of those timelines. I'm pretty sure.
You might be right.
Like not like exact, but he's like it should take them about this long to get here.
Okay, yeah. I think you are correct there, that they give a timeline of some kind.
But it's never brought. That was like early. That was probably when we first met Axe.
Yeah, and it could also be them being like 13, so like a year. That's forever. I'll be old by then.
Yeah.
No, and like, even if you've read the Andalite Chronicles, they come off, they're kind of arrogant. They can be dicks sometimes, but like in this book, like they're really full-blown assholes. And like in the Andalite Chronicles, they feel strong, but in this book, they come in and you're like, oh, they're totally outgunned. Like it really is. If you're a kid, this is like a complete shift from what you've read. Like they've hinted at it, and if you're an adult, you can figure out that this is what it's like. But like as a 9-year-old, I was not ready for the Andalites to suck this much in this book.
God, that sounds like a different book I'd like to read.
The one where they grow mouths. Please continue. Do not.
They use their hooves. That is a good point that I hadn't really considered, because, yeah, you're right. It's if you're a kid, this entire time the Andalites are clearly the good guys to a kid.
Yeah,
they're really. I mean, in Andalite Chronicles, there's a little more gray area with Alaran, but other than that, it's pretty clear which side you're on. And yeah, this is kind of a shock to the system when they're just like,
no,
ineffective.
Yeah, and it's
helpful.
Yeah, and on top of it, they act like an ass, which, like, isn't the most important thing. But when you're a kid experiencing a story, like, it matters a lot. Or it's like, that guy acts nice, so he must be the nice one. That guy acts like a dick, so he's a dick. And when all the Andalites are acting like, I mean, even Aldrea. Like, as a kid, you're not reading this like, yeah, Aldrea's just good. because you're also seeing Dak's side, and it's like, no, Aldrea also is they're all like this.
Yeah.
Has Axe been like this the whole time, and I just didn't realize it? Yeah, he kind of has, actually.
Oh yeah, that's true. But then he likes cinnamon buns, so it's
Right.
funny.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't notice.
I mean, I think that if every Andalite, if you just installed a Cinnabon on Andalite Homeworld, they'd be nice in an hour.
Hmm. Yeah.
They just have no. What do they do for fun over there? They're either warring or like fucking cloud painting. Like who's the fuck even? That's boring.
They
No,
commune with their garibas.
Yeah, these they need some fucking weed or something, man.
Yeah.
Do they even have alcohol? They don't. They just absorb grass. Fuck. No wonder they're so uptight.
Got to get away from those garibas and get on those haribos.
Oh, that is 100%.
That's all, folks. I'll be here all week.
I'm ready to go to the next section.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
the good news is we covered some of what I wanted to say about the next couple sections in the previous two sections.
Oh, did you want to go more into this blade ship thing here?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God, we almost moved on.
I know.
Yeah, well, we find out that according to Aldrea, or maybe it's Dak, but one of them says we call them blade ships, and then we also call these bug fighters. So it sounds like they came up with those names.
That sure is the canon according to this book.
But then the Yeerks also call them that later on, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, what? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Hey, we didn't name. It's just a ship. Oh, what did they call it? Oh yeah, that's catchy. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, no, it is bad enough that in particular, like none of this other stuff that we nitpick at bothered me as a kid, but like that, I remember as a 9-year-old being like, wait, so they called it the Blade Ship, but wait.
Yeah, it's very strange. It doesn't make and when do they hear them calling it that? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
They both just independently came up with. I mean, it just looks like a blade, so I guess they're both like, yeah, it's a blade ship. What else are you gonna call it?
Yeah, like they could have, like legit, you could have just had them going around calling it a blade ship, and then be all like, listen, they don't call it the same thing. It's a translation issue. We have to, whatever, the Andalites call it something, the Yeerks call it something, and we're just going to call it the blade ship, because that's what the humans call it, and you know what it is. And don't think about it, and don't worry about it. We won't even explain that. It's fine. And that would have been fine. I don't need to know the meaning of the dice.
Isn't the word controller also oh yeah, we call it that too. Didn't that happen at one point?
Yeah, I think that is true. That one you get kind of inoculated to because of how often they use it, but like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the vocab. I mean, even anamorph is a little clunky the way they introduce it. Like some of that stuff is not the most elegant in this series, but this one is particularly confused because it happens so. Like I think we hear them call it a blade ship or a bug fighter like in the next chapter, so it's just strange.
Yeah. I mean, at least with the anamorph example. That establishes that it's canon that Marco came up with that word. That anamorph is Marco's word. So that that if Jake had just said it, then I'd be like, I don't need to know this shit. Just start calling them anamorphs in between books or something.
Right.
You got to give Marco his due.
Yeah, it is Marco's word. That's why when I say it,
you get canceled.
I use a soft R.
Anamorphs. All right. Let's move on before I say something I regret here.
Yeah, please.
All right. So we're gonna catch up with old Esplin, who is now Subvisor 12.
We are kind of like the Come Town of Animorphs podcasts, aren't we?
That's probably true. I don't know. I don't listen to them. Maybe they're all like this.
I've never listened to Come Town either. I'm sorry for referencing it. Let's move on.
I full disclosure, neither have I. I don't listen to podcasts, so our listeners can rest assured. Subvisor 12 and his he's a gunner and a bug fighter, and his pilot, he and his pilot Alahar 68, no, Jesus Christ, Alahar 7865.
Oof, you would have been ripped apart for that mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would have ripped myself apart, because later on I was planning to say, why was 6'5" afraid of 7?
I look forward to when you're going to say that.
Because Alahar 7865. All right.
You know who my favorite Yeerk is
please.
Jenny 8675309. Okay.
I'm a big fan of that Yeerk.
Yeah.
All right. They've just made contact with the Andalites in orbit, right? There's Andalite ships, there's Yeerk ships, and the space battle is about to start, right? And there's a dogfight. And Esplin is in this dogfight with them. And the two of them, they pick up a kill while some of the other bug fighters get shot down, because Esplin knows Andalite tactics and formations, and he's cool like that. They lure another one toward like ground-based anti-orbital cannons. They get another kill. The fight ends, and at the end there are 4 like destroyed Andalite ships to 7 Yeerk ships. So like the Andalites sort of came out ahead, but it doesn't matter, because the Yeerks have so many more ships and also the capacity to build more ships. Like, this is not a winning fight for the Andalites, right? They can't afford to take these losses. Also, Esplin, he's got his kills, he's got his glory. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about Esplin in this here.
Yeah, Esplin. He's from one perspective, this book is an inspiring tale of how Esplin becomes a strong leader and turns around his little band of underdogs to overcome the bad guys.
Yeah, and here on the Yeerky Boys podcast, that is our perspective.
Yeah, 100%. The Kandrona truly does shine and strengthen them.
Yes.
Why don't they say that more?
I know, it's so good. It's too bad they stopped. Now, in this book, Subvisor 12 is the highest rank that Esplin achieves. In Andalite Chronicles, he is Subvisor 7. He basically stagnates for 20 years, 15 years at least. Right?
Yeah.
Without like an Andalite to fixate on. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to have Aldrea or Elfangor or Alar. He's got to have some Andalite to obsess over as his like muse, I think, in order to be good at anything.
Again, give me this. I want this comic book series, whatever you can do. I want the Esplin in between years when he's got nothing to do. What's he doing? What's he thinking about?
Yeah.
Does he have a love interest? Does he hang out with his brother? I want to know.
He just like scrolls Andalite Tinder trying to find the next one that he's going to try to hunt down.
Likes Andalites. Dislikes human
Subtlety.
scum. Yeah. Yeah, he climbs these ranks, and I like that they tell you really the specifics of what happens to the other sub-visors.
No, it's particularly good because, so 14 and 16 get promoted, 13 died, and 15 is being executed for incompetence and cowardice. And so it's noteworthy here that he didn't actually like get himself promoted. Right? Like, he didn't do anything where they were like, oh, good job, Esplin, you're going to get a higher rank now. There was just like, oh, no, everybody in front of me, just whatever, so I get bumped up, yay.
That's true.
Like, I bet, right, that you could rise through the Yeerk ranks really fast just by, like, keeping your head down and not getting executed for incompetence and cowardice.
Yeah, well, right now, this is just kind of the Wild West of Yeerk military. Like, nobody knows what's going on. They're in their first real war ever.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's chaos. You don't know. Like, you could kill some of these people and just be like, yeah, I don't know where they went today. I guess I'm the Subvisor 2 now.
Yeah, I mean, if Esplin was a little more take charge, he might do that. I bet Visor 1 would do that.
Yeah, probably. This is the part where I was thinking, because when you're Subvisor 15, somebody tells you they love you. gonna believe them.
I'm very disappointed you didn't make a full-length song version.
I'm not gonna. I considered it. I spent like at least a minute contemplating doing that, and I did not. So, for better or worse,
I think it's probably for the better. In all
now
honesty,
that was my Taylor Swift reference. So I don't know where yours is gonna come in.
we'll just there's just a little bit that reminds me of her.
That's nice.
We also find out there are 9 Visers right now.
Do we know how many there are in current series canon? Present day?
Don't think so. Although I feel like they have referenced like Visser 30 or some shit. Like I know there's got to be a lot more.
I was gonna say 30s sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. How do you feel about Alahar 7865? You know, he and Espen, they're kind of like Luke and Dak Ralter, you know, from Empire Strikes Back.
They are kind of like that. Dak Ralter? I don't know if I remember that.
That's his gunner in the, what you call it? What the hell do you call that thing?
X-Wing?
No, the thing that, on Hoth.
Oh.
What the fuck are those called?
The AT... No, that's the bad guys. The speeder thing?
Yeah, like the weird speeder, like the, you know, the like speeds over ground ship.
Snow speeder, probably.
Snow speeder or something. Yeah, his gunner was called Dak Ralter. I couldn't help but notice that he and the protagonist of this book share a name.
Huh. Why am I thinking Dak Rendar? Or is there a Rendar or something? Or what am I thinking of?
It's Star Wars. I'm sure there's a Rendar.
Rendar.
Yeah.
There's a Dash Rendar, but I don't think I knew he existed, but apparently that's who I was thinking
I think you
of.
did. I think you did know. I like when Alahar in this section says, watch it, you've got one on your tail.
Yeah.
Just some thoughts that entered my brain.
I don't think Dash Rendar is from... He's in Disney Infinity. He was first mentioned in Disney Infinity 3.0. That's his first mention. All right. Yeah, this is not I didn't know who this fucking character was. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
You did. You're just tapped into the Star Wars lore on some level.
God, this is going to drive me nuts. Go on, continue.
Speaking of Star Wars, though, I want to make a point about The Last Jedi.
Finally, can someone speak about Star Wars?
One thing we have avoided fairly well in this podcast is talking about The Last Jedi, but I'm going to now.
Go ahead. We've done it a couple times.
Yeah, but not... Okay. The whole point of this section, right, where the Yeerk sustain heavier losses than the Andalites, but it's just, like, clearly a Pyrrhic victory, right? The idea that trading off fighters, even for disproportionately large gains, is a losing strategy for the Andalites. I don't know if you recall in The Last Jedi, but there were a bunch of idiots who were all like, I don't understand why Poe's getting yelled at. He was right. Yeah, some people died, but they took out a dreadnought. That's clearly a good trade. The whole fucking point is that they don't have the like it's not an equal trade. They could get wildly disproportionate trades and it wouldn't matter because the First Order has so much more manpower. They are losing higher percentages. In the war of attrition, they will lose. Leia is right. Poe is wrong. You know, not understand. This is a book written for 9-year-olds. This was the concept I understood as a 9-year-old reading this book. The fact that you could watch The Last Jedi and not understand this concept, you know, it doesn't speak very highly to your ability to understand anything. Just something I wanted to say.
Hey, I agree with everything you just said 100%.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you do.
I'm going to be honest, I was a little distracted while you were talking because I figured out who I was thinking of, but I don't want to take away from your point because I think it's a valid one.
Yeah.
And I think the listeners will appreciate it, and if they don't, they should.
Right. If they don't, that's okay. You know, not everybody has reached the ripe old age of 9 years old yet, and I fully understand your brain isn't all the way developed yet. I get it. That's okay.
Remember when you were on the cusp of 9?
I do remember when I was on the cusp of 9.
Can I tell you who I was thinking of? Because I figured it out.
Yeah, please. I want to know.
I was thinking of Doc Ondar. You know who Doc Ondar is?
I know that name. As soon as you tell me who he is, I'm going to be like, right.
He is the shop owner of Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, which is located on Batu in Blackspire Outpost, also known as Walt Disney World or Disneyland Galaxy's Edge, the real shop you can go to. He's an animatronic alien who runs the shop at Disney World. That's who I was thinking of.
Okay, I was certain I'd heard that name before.
So I just want to reestablish in Star Wars, there's a Doc Ondar, a Dash Rendar, and also, what was the one you said?
A Dak Ralter.
All three of those people exist in the Star Wars universe.
Clearly we need a Star Wars podcast because we've gone completely off the rails here.
They're all completely different, very different people. Okay, I'm ready to get back into the next. I'm ready for the next scene, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Yeah, I just needed to make sure I got that Last Jedi out of my system first.
It was good.
Because I've never stopped fighting. Okay,
so we never will.
The war gets more intense. Right. Higher stakes, they're still losing, right? So occasionally more like Andalite ships show up. They hear like a distress call, but for the most part, the Andalites have to like stay in Z space in between fights because they just don't have the forces to stay in orbit. Dax Valley is Yeerk free, but everywhere else, the Yeerks are pretty much totally in control. 6 months in, the Andalites have now taken around 75% casualties, and they cannot hold out much longer, right? So we're getting another 6 months in time skip here. Yeah. The Hork-Bajir army remnants and a lot of the Andalites as well have been living with the Arn, who, as you said, the Yeerks have been enslaving in the other valleys. Dak is down there when he notices one day that there is one room in the Arn city that always has 2 to 3 Andalites outside of it, and they're guarding something. And they ask to be let in. The guarding Andalites refuse to let them in, and of course they're super racist to Dak. Aldrea goes to ask Alaran what's there, quote unquote, but really
Go ask Alaran.
But really she acquires him. So that they can sneak in. So, and as an aside, she also acquires Delph at this point. Delph Hajul, the Hork-Bajir.
We don't really... Oh, no, we do know that. Sorry. We don't know that... It seems like she has a plan for Delph, but we don't know it yet. No?
Well, we can talk about it because maybe she does. Finish? I didn't read it that way, but yeah, you might be right. Anyway, they go into the room. Aldrea being like, "I'm Alaran, let me in," and she brings Dak in. To figure out what's going on, and this is the room in which they are making the quantum virus Q118, which, if you remember from the Andalite Chronicles, we found out that this was what was eventually going to happen, is the Andalites are making a biological weapon to commit genocide against the Hork-Bajir because they know that they have lost, they can't win this fight, and instead of letting the Hork-Bajir be Yeerk tools, they are just going to genocide them. Okay.
Yeah.
Q118 is my favorite radio station.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you. All right. I had to do that before we get into the heavy part.
Q118. We're back from our commercial break. Coming up, we've got Hork. It's like Björk, but it's Hork.
Hork. Yeah.
Best I could do on short notice.
It's good. It's a good one.
Okay. Now, to be honest with you, a lot of my thoughts I had in this section, I kind of moved up and already said earlier, but this was another part of the book where really I felt again, another time skip. Just it feels like there's a lot of things happening here that we may not necessarily see, but you feel the weight of this, and you feel that this feels like a realistic, more or less realistic length of time for a war to take. Especially considering how hopeless it is. Like it's really one actual army against a shitty army.
Yeah, no, it is well thought out in that respect. There are a lot of, I mean, there are a lot of children's books that would have just written this over the course of like a week or two, and it would have been like, what it's overall. It has been a year and a month since we started the beginning of this section in
Yeah,
real life.
that's a lot. I mean, think about how far apart the Animorphs books are. Think
Yeah,
about how many stories you could squeeze into that year and a month.
yeah, we are not that much farther than a year and a month into Animorphs as a story.
Right. Now, I guess assuming that Andalite months are the same as human months, I don't know. I assume
Yeah.
they're translating that for us.
Yeah, presumably. I'm gonna just assume they are. I don't know.
It's actually
Um,
25 years.
right. Yeah, I mean, this is the climax of a lot of the themes that we've been discussing, like, in terms of the like Mother Sky's flowers for Algernon thing, or like the Hork-Bajir as pawns in this greater conflict thing. Dak has a whole speech here where he just like says all of that basically outright, right?
Yes.
I don't want to read all of this. It's too much, but
But I did think that was a really good, strong
yeah,
back and forth dialogue between the two of them. Maybe
yeah,
my favorite like interaction between the two of them in the book.
yeah. No, there's a lot of really good things here where Dak is like, oh no, we're too simple for all that. We're too stupid to lie, too stupid to be ruthless, too stupid to kill. It's that wraps up that thing. And he has another thing where he says, look at what's become of us, the despised children of the Arn, slaves of the Yeerks, tools of the Andalites. This is really the tragedy, right, of the Hork-Bajir, that they are, and I guess, well, all right, I'm thinking of too many things at once here, but the tragedy is that like they are a good people, they're fun people, they're like, it's hard not to love Hork-Bajir, uh, and they should be afforded some form of dignity of like having their own culture, having their own Hork-Bajir way, but like at no point the story of the Hork-Bajir, as you have pointed out before, in this book is not the story of the Hork-Bajir. It's the story of how the Arn made them, the story of how the Yeerks infested them, the story of how the Andalites came in and fought over them. And this is the tragedy of their species, I think. And it's good. It's a nice little wrap up of that here.
Yes, he's kind of said some of this stuff, or at least thought some of this stuff before.
Yeah.
This is the full unloading of it on Aldrea, and I think it's you get a. I mean, Aldrea, I think, is definitely painted as mostly being in the wrong, but it's not totally. There's still, you can still kind of see her side of it too, I think, in this scene. But obviously, you mostly sympathize with Dak. At least I do.
Yeah, and I think this is like kind of beginning to be like a turning point for Aldrea. And I think we see a little bit more of that in the next bit, but like up until this point, Aldrea is very much just like, I am all kill the Yeerks all the time, and Dak might hate me for it, but that's the way it is. And this is kind of a turning point for her, where she looks at this and says, "Oh, this is what I am have been pushing. This is what my people, my so-called people, are doing here, and like maybe I need to like, because by the end of this book, I feel like Aldrea has come around to be with Dak in terms of like, no, the Andalites are not so great. There's more important things than killing Yeerks." And this is really a turning point for her character, I think. But like, and in that particular scene that you're talking about, Aldrea is still like undergoing that transition.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty explicit by the end that she has
Yes.
turned sides.
Yes. No, 100%. And this is also the climax of the whole like the Andalites will not save you, you dumbass kid theme, right? Like when you're 9 years old, when baby me was reading this, it's like, I guess we kind of already knew that Alaran did this, but like actually seeing it up close is very different, especially with like this buildup, right? That mirrors the Earth buildup. The like we need to fight a losing battle in order to just wait for them, and then when they get here, they're like time to genocide them. Um, and I guess when I first read this book, I'd only been reading Animorphs for like 3 or 4 months, but like it really, when you're a kid, that's a long time. And for me, this was really just like a huge revelation, right? Like before this, Andalites, as you said, they're basically the good guys. They're kind of snooty, but they're basically the good guys. And this is the book where you're like, no, they're a fucking evil empire, right? Like they're an imperium, and in
Yeah.
in many respects here, and in this in many ways it kind of mirrors like my own political journey that I took with respect to like the American empire later in my own life. Like not to get too political, but this is going to be like there's just no getting out of the politics of this book, right? Like I think this book very much so was kind of foundational to me in the sense of like when I started having to come to terms with like, wait a second, what have we done? I think of America's this great country and we do all the, what actually have we done? It's like, I already took that journey, but fictionally, 10 years ago or whatever,
Yeah, the Andalites are. I don't know if it's 100% intentional, but clearly they're an analogy for the United States,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Uh, and I actually have something I've been holding on to this whole time. I almost brought it up earlier, but this is the time to bring it up.
Whoa.
Because,
Strap in.
yeah, something I've been holding up my sleeve. Because now I have to bring up, like, I have to bring up actual real life racism with regards to this book. So we've kind of talked before about like, oh, is the Hork-Bajir like a noble savage stereotype thing? Oh, why are the Horks so dumb? Um, but like honestly, it's fine because they're just kind of a tropey fictional sci-fi race, right? Okay,
Sure.
so there was an AMA on Reddit with Michael Grant, who co-wrote or ghost-wrote. I don't know how much he did on this, but he worked on this with K.A. Applegate. And he says in it, he says, quote, Hork-Bajir Chronicles was neat because it was basically a Vietnam parable. We even incorporated
Okay.
a version of the famous line, we had to destroy the village in order to save it. Hork-Bajir Chronicles was history and politics and philosophy snuck into a kid's book about monsters and trees. So explicitly, word of God from the author, this can and probably should be read as a Vietnam parable, right?
Yeah.
Which you
Yeah.
had brought up earlier that you can't help but think of Vietnam.
I am so fucking smart that I picked up on that.
Yeah, you are. You're a smart guy. And the in that case, as you said, the Andalites have to be read as an allegory for the Americans. But I do think this raises the question, if the Hork-Bajir are like fictional, then it's whatever. I don't really care that much. But if they're supposed to be a direct allegory for real, actual people, then like the whole they're stupid and backwards thing starts looking like actually pretty racist, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the defense of that is like, well, look, it still is a kid's book, so it wasn't like I don't know, maybe that could be the defense, but also, like I said, up until this point, I never really thought of the Hork-Bajir as being stupid, so
Yeah.
I don't really understand that choice in general. Like, you could still have a chosen one who's smarter than everybody without everyone being a 4-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, or like even if they like you could just not delve into it and you could just like if you wanted to make this allegorical, you would want to come in with the perspective of like, oh, well, their society is so primitive and backwards and nothing because I'm here from the perspective of the imperial court, right? I'm an Andalite viewer from outside, the way that an American might have typically been like, oh, well, those Vietnamese and their little huts in the jungle, whatever. But then, like, you get into the book and you're like, oh no, the Hork-Bajir culture is like really deep and nuanced and interesting, and they've got all these different kinds of art and they've got all these different kinds of culture and they're like fairly sophisticated actually, and the whole like doesn't kill thing doesn't work either, where it's just like they're not some like saints, they're just like you and me. I don't know. When I read this as direct allegory, that bothers me a lot more than when I just read it as like vague, nebulous metaphor in like a fictional sci-fi world that doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, you could say it's problematic, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's valid. I kind of like that that they're direct about it, and that it's not like they didn't know what they were doing. But I mean, I think you can still, even if that was their intent, it still is the silly sci-fi thing. You can, I think you can still have it that way, but I guess it just depends on how charitable you want to be to it.
And to be fair, like if you're looking at it from like a harm perspective, it's not like I read this book and then this book made me racist. I don't think. Like I'm still
right. If
perfectly,
anything, yeah. No, it's. I mean, this is it's the same thing as you could say about a lot of movies or Dances with Wolves or whatever. Like, well, the Hork-Bajir are still the good guys. It's but it's like, well, isn't it still bad to depict them as being dumb?
Yeah.
But also the whole point of the book is like, well, being dumb is better than being smart.
Yeah, no, it's doing a couple things, but like it's like I think plenty of people read this book and it's like, no, I'm perfectly capable of assessing this allegory and this metaphor and realizing that it doesn't apply to real people. Like, so this has not made me think that the third world people are backwards and stupid or anything like that. And and that does kind of come back to some of these arguments where it's like, listen, if some racist idiot is going to think that it doesn't really matter what you write, they're going to think that anyway. And if somebody like, I don't know. So it's one of the, I can't really like say it's bad exactly, but it is something that I'm aware of. And I do think that like, from the perspective of like caught in the middle of imperialist powers who do not care about their well-being and are just trying to fight some kind of proxy war, like it works extraordinarily well as a Vietnam allegory.
This podcast is going to be 4 hours long.
Yeah. What can you do? I'm honestly the rest of this book has very few notes on it for me.
It's your fault. I also think I want to say that I don't know that I keep saying, oh, they're dumb and they're stupid, which I feel like I'm just saying as shorthand, like, and because also that's what like Aldrea says pretty much directly, but I don't know. Maybe it's not the best, way to say it. Like it's there, and maybe that's the problem is just the framing of it. Like if they just said, oh, they're a simple people, but maybe that's also like condescending in its own way. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I said it.
On the topic of Hork-Bajir racism, one minor detail I noticed in this section, couldn't help but think of. The Andalites are all calling him like genius as an insult. And it just reminds me of Tobias at the beginning of this book being like, they're not exactly Einstein, which is almost literally the exact same thing the Andalites said about them.
Yeah, Tobias, by the way, at the end of the book, did not learn any lessons. He's still talking about how fucking dumb they are.
Yeah, Tobias is a bit problematic.
He's like, holy shit, I get it. Your planet died. Fucking shut up. I got voles to eat.
That is a perfect impression of him.
So anyway, then what happens?
Well, first I gotta make sure I mention Oncoloilium.
Come on.
Oncoloilium, John, which is an organic medicine. Don't forget about Oncoloilium. All right.
I did, but now I'll remember.
Now you remember. All right. So, like, Dak, he feels defeated out, but Aldrea's like, no, I'm not going to let you do this. She has the computer put all the virus created so far into a vial and blows up the lab with her shredder, and they're going to throw the vial into the planet core. All the Andalite soldiers hear the lab blowing up. Right. And they come running, but then the Yeerks attack, right? So in the middle of all the Andalites coming to fight them, the Yeerks come in with bug fighters and start blowing the place up. Blade Ship too. There's like a confrontation with Alaran. They get blown up by Blade Ship fire. They escape by jumping onto the Blade Ship, and the base is left behind destroyed, and they jump off into the trees. They jump off. Jack and Aldrea jump off into the trees before the blade ship can take off, and Aldrea morphs Delph so that she can get away with him through the trees, and they have a Hork-Bajir kiss where they put their horns together. All right, this is our. Andalite Chronicles did a good job avoiding the like just complete and utter chaos of Animorphs books, but for me, this section just it's a little out of control.
I don't know. I don't think it's not by a long shot the most out of control section we've read.
To me, it always felt harder to follow than like the monsters attacking the pool. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. I thought this all tracks more or less. I mean, well, first you got the fun like espionage angle. Mm-hmm. She makes good on your promise from last episode. She morphs into an Andalite.
She morphs into an Andalite, yeah.
Which I didn't know what that meant, so I didn't figure it out until I read it.
Yeah, that was the goal.
It did lead me to ask the question, though. I'm sorry that I'm always asking these questions, but
you're just asking questions.
Well, she tricks the guards and says, "Hey, I'm Alaran. Let me in there." Right? Mm-hmm. As far as we know, and we've talked about this before in other contexts, when you morph, your thought speech still sounds like your regular voice. Mm-hmm. But if you morph into a creature that natively has thought speech, then maybe it doesn't. I guess it doesn't, because otherwise they would be like, hey, your voice sounds pretty high like a little girl today.
It's worse than just the guards, because the computer has like a thought, like it's all like identify yourself, and she's like Alaran, and it's like thought speech identification confirmed. The computer thinks she sounds like Alaran.
But also, what does an Andalite sound like? They don't have voices. In their head, is there like a specific, like, oh, that guy sounds like James Earl Jones? Like, or do they just get the information like osmosis?
I mean, we've been saying that Aldrea must speak in a higher pitch because she's a woman, but like, I don't, like, why? She doesn't have vocal cords.
Yeah, well, it's mainly because that's how it works for humans.
Right.
But what does... It sure seems like when Axe speaks, the Animorphs hear a voice. They don't...
It sure does.
Like, he sounds like something. Why? Why would they evolve to sound like anything? There's not vocal cords. It's just their own brains affecting what their voice sounds like. It's very, I don't know. It's interesting. I would love to have that reasoned out and explored in like a visual dictionary or something, but I don't think it is. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I did take note of that in here though.
Yeah, Andalites must really have to deal with, it just reminds me of AI and fake news, you know? Once you introduce morphing to a society,
you
don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, it's all fake news. So this is the part where I've thought about Taylor Swift a little bit. Because there's a bit here where...
Specifically.
Yeah. There's a bit here where... Aldrea Dak is like, would you turn it, like, would you stand by me even if you had to turn against your own people, right? And Aldrea is like, oh yeah, of course I would. And Dak's like, yeah, she's bullshitting me, she's lying. And then later on, she's like, we got to get out of here, we got to take this out and whatever, come what may. And Dak's like, oh, I didn't believe you when you said you would choose me. And Aldrea's like, oh, well, of course you didn't believe me, I was lying then. And I remember a long time ago, I like brought up something with this book, and you asked something about like, could Taylor Swift write a song about this book or something as a joke? And I remember I referenced this specific line as something that happens in it, because to me, this feels like something that happens in a Taylor Swift song.
What's the line again?
Oh, I don't even have the specific thing written down here.
You can't set that up and not say the line.
Whatever. The line is, it's something, I don't know. But Dak is like, when you said...
Oh my God. Just cancel the podcast right now.
Do you not remember the line, though?
No.
You don't remember this? To me, this is a very memorable moment in their
But
relationship.
you don't remember it.
I remember it. I just don't remember the wording, the exact wording.
Okay, paraphrase it for me then.
Where he's like, I didn't believe you when you said that you would choose me over your people, and Aldrea says, "Of course you didn't. I was lying." That's the line.
I didn't believe you, I admitted. When you said if you were forced to choose, you'd choose me. Of course you didn't believe it. I was lying.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah,
That's
that is the bit. I like that interaction. It's not the specific wording, it's the idea. Like, is this idea not the... All right, whatever.
No, I get
You're
it.
just not poetically minded like me.
Of course I am. It's like Betty. I get it. I get it. Dakami is James and Aldrea is Betty.
You're right. Right.
I
think it might be the other way around.
Well, yeah, that's probably true. I'm with you.
Okay. Listen.
I did. This is when Dakami says he loves her.
Yes.
So
yeah,
now
this is them finally getting together. You've been waiting for it all book, and now they're kissing. They're saying they love each other.
Yeah. How does all right, so Andalites have a concept of a kiss, even though they don't have a mouth. They still call whatever they do a kiss.
Yeah, they I think she says here they stroke each other's face with their palms, right?
Which I think that's come up. I think in
I think so.
Andalite Chronicles, he said that because he was like looking at Lauren's lips, like, ooh, I wonder what those do.
Mm-hmm. Something gross. Yeah. But so if you're invested in Dak and Aldrea, which I know you're not.
Oh, I'm invested in discussing them.
I wonder how. Well, we probably should move on before we get to that part, but there's another small politics thing here where Aldrea is strongly asserting here that Alaran has lost his mind, right, and that the electorate would never support this, right? And it's like, oh, but the electorate's not here, Alaran is, and I think that this is likely like sort of true, right? In the same sense that like the American population does not support Guantanamo, right? Except we also kind of just took forever to do anything about it. Like people were like, I sure am mad about that. They should fix that for 10 years. Because, it's more important that we go about our lives in the Imperial Core being all cushy and comfy than, we actually deal with the fact that that's happening. Like, it's just not the first and foremost thing on our minds, okay?
I don't even like that you're talking about it now. It's making me uncomfortable.
That's reasonable, yeah. I just feel like that's a reasonable assessment of what the Andalite electorate is like, where it's like, listen, they're not as bad as all the assholes we meet necessarily, but they're not great either.
They're not great. Do we think that Alaran, he must have support? Like, he's not just making this virus on his own, or is he?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the soldiers, the
guards
here,
know.
like, they know.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what they, when he's like, I'm going to bring this Hork-Bajir in with me, and they're like, are you sure? So I wonder if they were like, oh shit, he's going to kill that Hork-Bajir in there.
Yeah, maybe. Also, who's making the virus? Because do they have scientists with them? Are there ladies on this planet?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like being processed in this computer. I think as a kid, I had this idea that maybe the Arn were helping them.
Huh.
Like, I think I had like a fan theory. It was like, why don't they make one to kill the Yeerks? And it was like, oh, because the Arn are intimately familiar with Hork-Bajir biology, so they helped them. Or I don't know. Maybe
that
not,
was my question, is why would they not just tune it to Yeerks?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because if they did it to Yeerks, they'd have to answer to it before the electorate. Was with the Hork-Bajir, they could be like, I don't know, they all died. You don't care about those guys.
It's one of those things where I just wish there was some lip service. Like, literally just for some reason the Yeerk DNA doesn't work with it or something, Like, Hork-Bajir are closer to Andalites, so we can make it scientifically happen. But that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It works for what the story is doing. So,
yeah.
All right, so they've had their kiss. They've escaped their thing. They're getting away when who shows up? Esplin has shown up. He has his guards capture them and like tied them up, or I don't know what you do with a Hork-Bajir, but binds them somehow. And he's like, Aldrea, demorph so I can infest you. And he's like beating up on Dak when he realizes, oh, I could just infest her as a Hork-Bajir. And he gets so excited, he grabs her head and he does like a direct ear to ear infestation, like with Cassie and
Ear
Karen.
to ear,
Palp to palp, ear to ear. And as soon as he gets in there and touches her brain, he's just so excited. He starts immediately like going through her memories and just dumping all of his own memories in there. Right? He's just memory dumping. He's ecstatic, and in his haste, he has completely forgotten that his own host body is now free, and so that host, Gaffilat, beats up his guards and pulls Esplin out of Aldrea's ear. So this section here makes me think, we've said it before, but Andalites, they help him exceed or excel, but they also they make him stupid.
Yeah.
Like he sees an opportunity to infest Aldrea and he just like runs as fast as he can and trips over himself like a little kid, right?
This is pretty stupid. It's not just Esplin. He has there's other controllers. Like they wouldn't restrain the one or just even just kill it. Like what were they doing? They're just like, I guess we'll just stand here and check it out.
Yeah. I don't know. They do what they're told.
This is dumb. Like this is dumb. But
yeah. Yeah, no, it is kind of a contrivance, right? Because the whole idea here is that Esplin has to get into Aldrea's head because that way he can memory dump and then she can know what he did. And that way she can tell the story. Because otherwise we don't know what Esplin's parts are.
Oh, that's okay. I honestly wasn't really sure where that rationalization came in, but that's it.
Yeah, no, and I think that rationalization works if you get Esplin into Aldrea's head. Getting him out, the way they did it, it's kind of dumb because they didn't think of a good way to get him out, so they just didn't have one.
Yeah.
I do get the idea of Esplin being so excited that he just memory dumps into her because he's got this weird pseudo-sexual fascination with her and he wants to, like, mind meld with her. But then I do feel like I would agree you need a slightly less dumb way to get him out, right?
Like even just if you sometimes you just need a line. If they just said something like, we don't, like, they just underestimated the Hork-Bajir. They just thought, oh, they're docile, like it won't do anything. But that doesn't even make sense because they've been fighting them for a year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do like that Esplin loves Andalites as he has like as he is removed from the head, his one memory he's focusing on is the quote, the overwhelming beauty of an Andalite running free.
Right.
He just fucking loves those Andalites, man.
Yeah.
It's his dream.
I wonder what an Andalite tastes like if I were to like lick one.
Huh.
That's an intrusive Esplin thought. An Andalite would feel like on my palps.
Well, he knows now the inside.
That's true.
It's been inside of her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Gaffilat, whatever. Good job, I guess.
I like Ga. I'm a big fan of Ga, too. All right.
Of course, who wouldn't be?
Yeah. So Dak and Aldrea are trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives when the ship that Esplin had brought them to is shot down by an Andalite fighter. So it gets blown up. They crash land. And when they wake up, in like a daze, all beat up and concussed, 2 hours have passed, and Aldrea has been stuck permanently as a Hork-Bajir in Delph's body here. And Ga has gone out searching for bark and such. So they look around for the canister of Q118. They're like all panicked, like, oh shit, where'd that canister go? But it is too late. Ga has returned, and he's brought them the canister because he knows they're looking for it. But the top is off. I don't know if Ga took it off or if it got knocked off in the crash. but he's running toward him. And, as Ga begins to, contort in agony and die, Dak and Aldrea run for their lives. They're like running against the wind so that they're not going to get hit by the virus. And as the book closes out, we see, the Arn base is in smoking ruins. The Andalites are leaving in defeat. The Hork-Bajir army is totally defeated. The virus has been released. The Hork-Bajir are doomed. That's it. That's the end. There's no future and no
That's the ball
hope.
game.
Everything's over now.
That's the drift ball game.
That is the drift ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another, this is like the third or fourth time more if you count Andalite Chronicles, where it's like, oh, if only they had just killed Visser 3 right there,
Yeah, right? Visser 3 pulls some comic book shit here, where it's like he's literally a slug lying on the floor of the ship, and then the ship gets shot down and crash lands. And then they didn't find a slug in the wreckage, but how could a slug have survived that fireball? Oh, but there is a stream nearby. Like this is reaching into the and then the Joker fell off 100-foot cliff onto a pit of spikes, but they didn't find his body, kind of thing.
A little bit like when Marco's mom vanishes in the wreckage of the underwater base or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Yeerks are resilient.
Yeah.
The Kandrona shines and strengthens them.
Clearly. Talk to me about Aldrea, who is Hork-Bajir now.
Yeah, so, I mean, I said this before. I don't know if I think Aldrea had this specific idea in mind, but I do think that when she was like, yeah, I acquired him, it just works just like this. Like, she didn't have to demonstrate it. I think there was a part of her that was like, this may be useful to have at some point.
Yeah. Or maybe she's just been thinking for a long time about Dak, and she's been like, but I'm an Andalite, but maybe if I morphed Delph.
That's the kind of fucked up part to me.
Yeah.
Dak is now just fucking his best friend's wife.
Well, it's kind of like if you and your friend got married to a set of twin sisters, That wouldn't be weird, right?
Yeah, and also they had the same memories. I guess maybe twins do because they have creepy twin powers, but...
Yeah, well, they wouldn't... Aldrea and Delph wouldn't have the same memories, though.
But oh, right, they don't have the memories, but she just has, like, the instincts and stuff, right?
Yeah, just the standard Hork-Bajir stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But there's not even... He does not hesitate for a second. He's not like, oh, this is a little weird. He's like, all right, yeah, she's hot. I'm into it. Let's go.
Dak was like 95% of the way to fucking even when she was an Andalite.
Dak is like, hey, maybe there's this other Hork-Bajir I know. Maybe you want to morph her just in case?
Thank God. I was having some thoughts I was not proud of, and now I can claim it's okay.
Aldrea's like, I can't really tell which ones are the hot ones. You figured?
Yeah, I figured Jaggle's got good taste, so.
Yeah, that guy knows what's up. Yeah, it's weird. It's pretty weird to me.
Yeah,
so wait, does Delph die?
We don't know. We don't know what happens to Jaggle and Delph. Maybe they hold out for a while, or maybe they die.
And we don't really know what happens to Dak and Aldrea. Like, we know that they continue and have kids, but like, where, how, what happens to the Arn? What happens to the rest of the Hork-Bajir? It's the end of this is still a little vague.
Yeah, there are a lot of details that we don't really know about what happens from this point going forward.
We know the specific memories and thoughts of Esplin, but not this other stuff. Yeah.
Now, I will say, we will get a little bit more detail to answer your question eventually.
Okay. I like eventually.
So there is more stuff coming about, like, what happened to the Arn, what happened to Dak and Aldrea, and what happened
the Arn come back?
Well,
wow.
We might hear about Arn again.
That is pretty exciting.
Throwing that out there. Yeah. Can't leave well enough alone.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Now at the
I want an
beginning.
Arn Mercora crossover. Go on.
Oh. No, now you've got me on that.
I'm not gonna lie. I have just basically been picturing the Arn as crab people. Like they just are the Mercora to me. I think it's the same race.
I think
like,
that's
not that
totally
different.
acceptable. Yeah. Except the Mercora are nice, and I like them. They aren't.
I guess
suck.
yeah, that's true.
They're just mean Mercora. They're the evil Mercora. Now, at the beginning of this book, you had asked, "Do they fuck?" And I was like, "You'll have to read to find out." And then you asked, "Do they fuck as Andalite and Hork-Bajir?" So the answer to the first question is yes, and the answer to the second question is no.
Right.
They do fuck. They have a kid.
Yeah.
They probably fuck a lot. Let's be real. But as Hork-Bajir.
No interspecies fucking yet in the series.
Yeah, no.
I don't think.
Coward.
But that's nice. That's nice for them. I'm happy for them.
It is good to know. So I really like Dak and Aldrea as a couple. I know that there have been a couple times where you've been like, I'm missing a bunch of the like little tender moments that give them chemistry or whatever. But I sort of feel that, but like their overall arc, I really love. I like that they both have like huge personality issues and they're just kind of making it work. I like that like they're both broken, but in a way that fits together. Like I don't, as opposed to like if you look at Lauren and Elfangor, right? It's like, oh, Elfangor's only real issue is that he's not a great warrior yet. It's like why would anyone fall for? Well, because he's sweet and nice. And like, what about Lauren? Well, no, Lauren's sweet and nice. And I like that it's like, no, Dak is he's like lonely and confused and doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Aldrea is kind of a shithead. Like they're not the people that you would necessarily want to be with. But they for each other, they come together and work. And I really appreciate that.
Well, I agree with you that I think taken as individuals, both Dak and Aldrea have more interesting arcs and probably more depth to them than Elfangor and Lauren did. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like this is a direct comparison I was drawing in my head because I don't know, it feels like an obvious. They're two Chronicles books of different species lovers. It just feels like. But I do, and I don't know. I was like, am I just? It was probably not great in Andalite Chronicles, and I've just kind of the details have become slightly fuzzy in my head. But I still feel like I left that book in terms of their relationship with each other, feeling more like, oh, these two people like each other. And Dak and Aldrea, I like as individuals. At least I like their stories, but I don't feel an emotional connection as much. I don't. It feels a little more clinical to me. The descriptions of their arcs and their journeys. It doesn't feel as, and part of that is because Dak Camille is learning how to speak. And Aldrea's very, she's just scientist and she's got an analytical mind or whatever. I don't know if she's not literally a scientist, but whatever.
Don't be sexist here. Just because she's a woman doesn't mean she's a
Get
scientist.
back in the lab. Make me an enzyme. Okay.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Good. Makes sense, right? I don't know what an enzyme is. And I think this last third does a better job. It starts to kind of course correct some of that for me. But I think if you actually look for all the parts of the book that describe their falling in love with each other, it's like, I would estimate maybe 7 sentences. I really think there is not much there. It's you really have to read a lot of it in until it just feels to me like they go, oh yeah, I love you now. Oh well, because you're the male and the female in the book, so I guess that's why.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not sure. I 100% agree. I would. I think that a lot of it is because I may have said this before, but their relationship is a little bit toxic, right? They're not. I feel like it's less like they have that chemistry. It's less like they have all these tender, sweet moments, and more like they have all these moments where they need each other. They have all these moments where they're important to each other, and they're like the only ones who can sort of fill that role in the other one's life. Like it seems like their relationship, their love is less about that like sweet chemistry and more about just being like, I I fundamentally have an issue. I am not complete. I need someone else and it needs to be you. And even if I don't like you, I still need you to be here with me. And that's what love is to me.
Yeah, and I think I know this has come up before. I can't remember the
Hmm.
context, but it's another example of I'm like I think you're right that stuff is there. It's
Hmm.
just you gotta do a little more of your own work to find it than I wish you did. I don't need it to
Hmm.
be like spelled out, like dumbed down, but I think it's very easy to read the book and not take those things away. You have to kind of put a little more of your own thought into it. And I'm like, I just
Yeah.
wanted some more of that.
Yeah.
I needed a montage. I needed a montage with the James with
Mhm.
the who the fuck did the music? James Horner? For the I need that score.
Yeah.
I need those moments. I don't know like we had the tree swinging stuff, but it again all
Hmm.
of it was described like I was just reading about like Jake turning into an eagle or something. Like it wasn't
Mm.
it wasn't romantic to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's also so hard because so much of it is like, my first impressions of this, I was 9. It's not like I was like a romantic soul who, thought
Like you
thought
are
much
now.
about relationships. Yeah, exactly. So like there might be some sense of like I just understood this to be a relationship, and maybe I didn't like emotionally have an exact feel for what that meant. So it like worked anyway. And now it's just always going to work because in my mind they love each other. It is, I will say, it is hard to do that. It is hard to be completely objective for me with this book. Um, but I would agree, if the general statement here was that the main problem with this book is that it is about 200 pages as opposed to about 700 pages. Like if
Yeah,
you
I mean,
yeah, you just
yeah,
add that montage, add in a bunch of chapters there, take that 6-month time skip, that 7-month time skip, turn those into 10 chapters apiece.
or even again, like if this were a movie, you could make up like 50% of what I feel is missing just with the way they look at each other.
Hmm.
Which and you just don't have that the chemistry that two people who like each other have isn't I don't think uh made clear on the
Hmm.
by the words on the page.
Yeah. So like if you just rephrased it to have like the literary effect, like version of that effect.
Yeah, there's a couple parts where it's like, "Oh, she touched my hand" or whatever, and I'm like, I just needed more of that to
Hmm.
really convince me.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh
yeah.
but I liked both characters, and I especially Dak. I do think that
Hmm.
his journey is fascinating, but I almost appreciate it more like from a storytelling perspective than I do from an emotional perspective.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't really feel like I'm like, wow, yeah, he went through a lot. Like I appreciate the scale of it and the
Hmm.
arc and all that, but I'm not 100% buying into it emotionally. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe I need to reread it. I might reread it.
yeah, maybe if you did it all in one shot, it would be different. I don't know.
It could be. It could be, or just having talked about, it, and also not like there's a lot of other stuff to dissect at the same time.
Yeah,
So
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
it's not like this. It's not like this. The love story is like eighth priority of this book's things it needs to get done. I think so. It's
yeah, and it's a dense freaking book. Like this is more to say about this than the End of Light Chronicles, and this is nowhere near as many words.
yeah,
uh,
that's true.
dense fucking book. All right,
Let's take it
so
home.
let's take this home. Yeah. So Jeremy, we're back here. He has stopped talking. It's morning. All the other Hork-Bajir have fallen asleep, and Tobias is shaking off the morning dew. The story's over. Jera and Tobias talk. We find out that Dak and Aldrea's son was named Ciro after her father, and that was Jeremiah's father, which we already knew he was their grandkid. Tobias is getting ready to leave, but as he's leaving, Jera introduces Tobias to his daughter. Remember baby Hork from the beginning?
Your favorite character.
My favorite character in the whole series. Jera introduces Tobias to her, and her name is Toby. Baby Hork is named Toby after Tobias. And Tobias remarks this is a strange name for Hork-Bajir. And they say it's a good name because Toby is different. And Tobias is like, wait a second, when you say that. And Toby looks up and says, yes, Tobias, friend of the Hork-Bajir. Yes, I am different. It's great.
I'm really not good. Some dumb idiot like the rest of them.
I love this line because it feels like the way that it's positioned in the story, it feels like there's a double meaning to it, right? Where it's like, she's not just saying she's a seer like Dak. She's also saying like, this time it'll be different. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it feels to me. It's like, we did this before, it didn't work, but guess what? We're going to do it again. And this time it'll be different.
It is good. And it's also a very, I don't know how much I love the framing device or how much I believe that you'd be able to get all this information from this story. I just kind of wish it were just told. Like, I mean, even Andalite Chronicles did the same thing. It was Elfangor telling that. Like, why can't you just tell us the story? I don't.
'Cause it was in the past, Jonathan.
Right? How
you can't tell a story happened in the past.
I guess she did that to herself with the Animorphs book, since they are all written by a person. Theoretically, like, Jake is telling you, so in order to like make them make sense, they now all have to be told by someone. I guess
they don't have to be.
Are they all like that? Is for the rest of the like is Elemist Chronicles like that too? I guess we'll find out. But
yeah.
I guess that's the thing. That's what it is. But yeah,
Visser's a little different, but it's still told in the present tense. Yeah, no, they're all like in the present being told.
Yeah,
basically.
But anyway.
Yeah, no, anyway, yeah.
So, but regardless of that, what was I saying? I feel like I was going to say a positive thing, and then I just started ragging on it. I can't remember.
It started on the whole Toby thing.
Toby's like that. Unlike Andalite Chronicles. Oh, actually, that's not true. It is like Andalite Chronicles, but a little different. In Andalite Chronicles, the reveal is that Tobias... They both have the reveal of a baby Tobias.
Yeah, that's true.
He's the key to all of this. The reveal is that Tobias is Elfangor's son, and here the reveal is that Toby is the seer. But I feel like that the Tobias's son thing is more like important from a character perspective. But this is potentially very important from a plot perspective. And again, I don't know what happens, and knowing Animorphs, this may never come up again, or it might be very important. But like, now that we've had this story, we understand the importance of a seer, and now we know there is one just like living around. It seems like that could have big consequences.
Yeah. So is Toby Eric or a Lyran? That's the question.
I guess the Lyran are more important than Eric, I guess.
You would... Well, no, I was going to say, because Eric shows up all the time and, like, helps them out. And you would think that because they have Lyran morphs, apparently, I guess, I don't even know, that they would be able to just turn into Lyrans in the closet and learn all the Yeerk plans, but they don't do that. And I just assumed they didn't have them because they never turn into them again.
It's funny, I was thinking Eric is the one who never shows up again. He does show up, but...
He does.
We haven't seen, like, the rest of the Chi. I want to see them.
Yeah, well, you get Eric.
I don't fucking want Eric. Slumming it at Burger King. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like this as a nice hopeful note. I like that the story is incredibly depressing and sad. And it feels like it has a happy ending because it ends on this note of hope, even though nothing good has happened, really. I mean, I guess no, there was a Hork-Bajir, the first Hork-Bajir born into freedom. That's good. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You got to have that note of hope. I like it. It's nice. Is
mhm.
Tobias stupid that he didn't figure out who Esplin was?
Yeah, I think Tobias is stupid.
Okay. He's
Tobias is
like, wait
stupid
a
and
minute.
racist.
Esplin was, huh? Oh, yeah. Like, no shit. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, when a Hork-Bajir looks at you slyly, as is described here, you know you're not operating on like a very high level here. If a Hork-Bajir can be sly with you.
But I'm like, was that for kids supposed to be a twist? Like, did she think kids wouldn't know? Because she has used the name Esplin before, so like you could figure it out.
I mean, I 100% knew, although, like I said, I think the promotional material for this book just said Visser 3 is in this one.
Yeah, that
So,
makes sense.
I don't know for sure.
I do. And there is. I would like to close with my favorite quote.
hmm
Story have no end.
hmm
Stories go on.
That's a really nice quote.
It's good. I'd get that tattooed on my body.
Okay.
Stories go on. That's
Yeah.
unironically that is a beautiful sentiment. I think it's a lot like this podcast, which like a story goes on.
Goes on. Yeah.
Story have no end.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well,
I don't
this
need
will
to explain why I like it. You'll understand. People
Yeah.
know.
No, people get it. This will always be my favorite Animorphs. Like I and I would have said going into it, I don't like now that we've picked apart all the problems, we've done that. But like it's like I I would have said like I think objectively it's not, but like it'll always be my favorite because like first of all, I got to draw parallels with pretty much every media franchise I like. Right, this is everything I like rolled up into a book. And, this is a great world for imagining like environments, animals, culture. It's a great place to just kind of live in, like in your imagination as a child. As you were saying, like you have to fill in all these blanks, but like it does a good job allowing you to fill in like far, far more than it tells. And that's just really good for like a thing to make me happy. And like I said, it's also like foundational to me politically. So like this book will always be important to me. There's a reason it was my favorite book as a kid, and there's a reason why it'll probably never stop being my favorite Animorphs, regardless of any issues with it.
But close second is The Secret.
Right. Yes. Close second. Well, maybe The Secret's a little better.
Yeah, I thought so.
You've done it. You convinced me. You said at the beginning you would, and you've done it.
Yeah. This is not my favorite Animorphs book. I did like it a lot, and I do agree about in a similar way to kind of how, well, I don't know, I can't really say this without it just being an insult, but the way the Star Wars prequels, like, aren't very good, but they give you there's a lot of backstory and world building that's fun to explore. I don't want to compare them in terms of quality, to be honest, but I could have just said the original Star Wars if I wanted to be nice, but I didn't.
Just say Phantom Menace, and I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, right. Phantom Menace.
Ignore the other one.
It's problematic from a storytelling perspective in certain ways, but it has a lot to chew on and a lot of imaginative ideas, similar to how Aldrea Chronicles kind of was similar. But I'll save more of my ultimate judgment on it for our next episode when we're going to be doing our rankings.
Yes, that's true. Next episode, we will be recapping season 2.
Yes, as we call it. So don't read a book next week, or for a while actually, but we'll get to that. We're covering books 14 through Hork-Bajir, plus Megamorphs too. Just like our first season 1 recap. We're doing that next week.
Yep. Was there any? We kind of just moved into the closing of this episode, didn't we?
Yeah, which is perfect. By the way, I also think this is probably the book with the fewest pop culture references.
Yeah,
Only one.
One in the and they even brought Tobias back for the end here, and he didn't say anything. He restrained himself.
So that's something worth noting. Yes. At this point, it's too late for you to send emails to us for the season 2 recap, but you can still send us emails for future episodes that we'll read on the show. theyeerkyboys@gmail.com. You can follow us at the Yeerky Boys on Twitter, but we're not posting there anymore. And you can follow me on fucking Blue Sky at Jonathan Estes is my handle.
Yeah, and you can also follow me on fucking Blue Sky at Dog Times.
Wow.
Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next time when we'll be recapping season 2 on the Yeerky Boys.